Hey, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. I'm fired up, excited about this opportunity. It's one that I've anticipated for a long, long time. That torso that you're seeing right there, that is the torso of Grant Cardone. I'm gonna jump here to introducing him here in just a minute. But this gentleman, let me just start by saying this. The passion and purpose of this show, the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, is to help you think bigger. It's to help you have a life of significance. Every day, Grant shows up in my news feed telling me that most people live a life that's just okay, that's just average. And, the recipe for changing your life, the recipe for changing who you are, what your family tree looks like, and the impact that you have in this world isn't that complicated. It starts off, this bookshelf behind me, which has a number of Grant's books on it, is a reflection of how it all begins, right? We have access to the best ideas. We live in the most amazing time in the history of the world where we can find people that are achieving at the highest levels, and we can have conversations with them. We can have them in our car by listening to their podcasts. Now, in addition to that, you can take a next step and you can start to get closer to these people. I had the great privilege of having Grant come and speak to a big audience. This has been about a year and a half ago. He spoke the Old Republic title, and he wowed the crowd. We're still talking about the impact that he's had upon us.
I don't know why you guys hadn't had me back. That's the sad part of that deal. Like, I don't know why a group that successful would do something. They know it worked, and then not repeat it again.
Well, this is probably a great segue into that. I'm sure that the people that I work for, Grant, they're going to be seeing this, and this will be a great commercial.
Because, dude, I love being there. I love that audience. I love the way the think was. That company has proven itself for so long to continue to transform itself. I thought we were going to do some big stuff together.
Well, let's get that started. Let's kick that back off. So the impact that Grant's had upon me has been massive, right? This TB behind me here stands for Think Bigger, in part because I read Grant's book, 10X, the 10X rule. Read that 3 or 4 times, and it's impacted me in incredible ways. And now I've got the great privilege of having Grant come on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show and inspire all of us to think bigger. Here's the thing that is really inspiring. I asked Grant, I said, Grant, looks like you're in a hotel room, right? Grant streams from all over the world, and you can kind of tell, like, when he's at his home, he's got his family around him, and when he's not. And this environment here didn't look like home. I was like, Grant, where are you at? So Grant, tell us where you're at right now, which is going to inspire each and every one of us.
Yeah, so I'm at my church right now. I've spent the last 5 days doing services here, working on me and my, my blind spots. Like, what don't I know? What can I learn? Like, I've seen so many people get to where I'm at, particularly in the self-help, the self-improvement space, where guys are doing educational stuff. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally thinking about their names in my mind right now. Guys that are living, guys that aren't living. Big, giant individuals that amass tremendous success and legend kind of lifestyles, right? And some of these guys, most of these guys actually quit learning. They quit being a student. And so there's one of my little girls right there. And I, studying people that I've either been able to read their books, or like when I read somebody's book, the other thing I do is I study their life. Like what's really going on, not just at the bank or on the bookshelf, but in their life. Okay. And their whole life. What was it like? I mean, did they just catch one guy gets a TV, somebody does a TV show about a book he writes and people know about him. But if you look any deeper than that, you're just going to see a criminal, couldn't pay people back, stole from people. I don't want that. That's not what I want in my life.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. I got to be careful I need to, when I find somebody that is attractive to me to learn from, even back to biblical days, like study, who were they really? Years ago in college, I was studying a guy that later I found out committed suicide. And I'm like, wait a minute, man, I was collecting data from this cat thinking he was the Mac Daddy. Yeah. And so something must have been missing. So anyway, I'm here I'm a student here. Like I come here, I'm not leading, I'm not educating, I'm not doing, a seminar. I'm just here to learn.
You're here learning. It's interesting. I am in the process of reading a book called "How Will You Measure Your Life," and it reminds me a lot of what you're saying. Clayton Christensen, the author, he talks about he graduated with some of the brightest minds in the world. Came back 10 years later, and like some of the most intelligent ones were in jail. Like one of them was a CEO of Enron, right? And
Yeah.
Sometimes guys have success at the highest levels, but they give it all up, right? And I love the fact that you're continuing to be a student and looking for your blind spots, and nourishing your soul, not just your mind. It's powerful for all of us to keep our moral compass at the same time that we're going 10x with our business, right?
Yeah, because it's easy. It's easy. It's easy. Like you get, you're hustling, you're working, you get you get a deal. You close a deal, then you close the second deal, and then next thing you know, you're starting to exaggerate things a little bit, or you're getting a little sloppy, or you're not working as hard.
Right.
All those are interruptions in my ethical and moral agreements to myself. The fact that somebody gets financially successful would not be a reason, at least for me, to let off the gas.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Okay, I got mine. Now I'm going to kick back. And because I got mine, that for me was like a huge, like mind-boggling. Oh wow, that's why I was in my maybe late 30s, and I had $2 or $4 million put away, and I quit working, and then I went into depression, and I thought it was like, oh, money doesn't make me happy, and the truth was I was not making a contribution anymore. It had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with success. I quit contributing. And I think that is the most important thing a human being can do, is contribute, whether you're paid for it or not paid for it, to contribute, to give back, to help. And I had quit contributing. It was a violation of my moral code.
Yeah, I had go ahead.
Yeah, just my personal code, right? What's true for me. It was a violation, and it caused me a lot of problems. So that's what I call the blind spots. You get blind. You just can't see everything unless you stop a second, get another person maybe asking you the right questions, taking some time. I'm not talking about meditation here. I'm talking about taking some time to actually inventory what's going on in life.
I had one of my professors in college. He had a massive company that was acquired. He said, I decided I'm done. He said, I got a membership to the country club, told my wife, I said, look, my job's been to provide for the family. Your job has been to bring up the kids. I'm kind of done early, so I'm going to spend some time on the golf course. He's jokingly saying this, right? But he said, it was honestly the most miserable 2 years of my life. He said, I went back to the university where I studied, and he said, can I come work for free? Because he said, I don't need the money. But he said, I'm dying because I'm not contributing, like you said.
Yeah.
I think I really appreciate this conversation, Grant, because, someone could look at somebody like you, right? You've got the jet. You've got, what else could you want? Yet at the end of the day, even if all of your material needs are taken care of, you'd be miserable if you stop. Not because you need another jet, not because you need a bigger jet, but because you need to contribute. You actually have to think bigger than just business, but actually contribute to the world in bigger ways. Otherwise, you're miserable. You're miserable on that jet, right? You're the guy that's on that jet thinking about this life sucks.
Yeah, well, I've never been on my jet and thought life sucked, but I agree with what you're saying. It's like, it's because some people are going to think like, oh, you're just not happy. Like there's this whole psychiatric field out there that says I'm trying to fill some empty hole in me because I can't be content with what I've achieved already.
Yeah.
That they think I should be happy. But look, nobody else knows what my moral agreement is. Mm-hmm. And that's just a personal thing. It's not a religious thing. It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Probably more spiritual than even a religion could be. It's my personal agreement, not my mom telling me or my dad or society, but my agreement with me. What's okay? Not my wife, not what she thinks or the kids. This is me. And, you know, in life, no matter how many people you're surrounded by in life, there are certain things where you're just alone. And like those kind of agreements, what makes you happy, what makes me content is contributing. And so whether that was coming to the Old Republic meeting and having people say, wow, what am I thinking? Why was I thinking to be satisfied? That's what the 10X rule was. That book was, for me, one of the best contributions I've made was writing that book. Even better than that was putting on audio where I got to actually riff on, like I'm doing with you right now, on what it means to me to 10X and the problems and the situations and handling all that comes with when you try to expand like that. Those are the products and the books and the audio programs and the webinars and the speeches and all that stuff that I do. They're really ways for me to contribute and hope that people are using that material later in life. Also, I sell those things, just to be completely honest and fair with everybody. Like, I don't give that stuff away. There are certain countries where we give stuff away because there's no money in that country. Yeah. You know, to sell a program for $14 in America, a $14 program is 10 hours long. I've sold millions of those, that product. But when I go to Nigeria, I can't sell that for $14. I need to sell that for like a quarter, right? Not a quarter of $14, 25 cents in their money, or I could just give it away. But here's the problem with just giving something to somebody. The problem with giving something away for free is, and it's not the old adage about it, well, if I don't pay for it, then I'm not going to appreciate it. The issue is when somebody gets something for free, you have put the person in a position where they weren't able to exchange back with you. So if I just give you $20, right, the flow went one way. It's much more powerful if you give me $20. The giver, that's why they say, hey man, it's better to give than receive. And the truth is, it's better to give and receive, right? You want the flow to be going between two individuals because it empowers both parties. And so, like, we go to parts of the world where, man, there's no way. I go to Mexico. I can't sell my programs for my coaching's $100,000, $100,000. Like, you know, most people in Mexico, some people can buy it, the very, very elite of the elite.
What a powerful way for you to change the mindset of an entire nation, right? To help. I mean, I don't know that you'll live to recognize this. I don't know that any of us will. But, you know, fast forward 500 years from now, and you go back and look at the ripple effect of you helping somebody in some small developing nation to think bigger.
Crazy, right? I see Bill Gates doing that. Look, Bill. Yeah. That guy was a grinder, right? He was working. He was either coding or sleeping.
Yeah, he got after it.
You know, he builds Microsoft. China's ripping him off. He goes on TV. If they're going to steal software, I want to make sure they're stealing Microsoft. Guy was an animal. Okay, when he was building that company, that's $1 trillion company today. I think they're worth $1.049 billion or something, some ridiculous number, right? Crazy. But the point of that story is they scaled that product all around the world. He's not interested in software today. He's interested in putting plumbing into Africa. Mm-hmm. And that's what he will be. He'll be remembered for Microsoft. He'll be remembered for one of the richest people in the world. But he's also going to change the planet because of how he used his success. And everybody here watching right now has the ability to do that, but you can't do it. You can't. I hate to say this, but you just can't do it if you don't have success.
Yeah, success leads to that opportunity for greater significance. Well, and it's, you know, a lot of people might criticize someone who's uber successful to say, man, enough is enough, right? Whereas for you, like, so what if Bill Gates would have said that? What if, he would have got his millions and got his and stopped and said, you know what? I don't want to be greedy. Enough's enough. Look at the countless nations right now and people all over the world that would not be benefiting from his humanitarian efforts because he decided to take his foot off the throttle, listen to the common person that said, hey, money's bad, greed is bad, you need to knock it off, you need to stop, you've got enough, stop.
Yeah, well, his dad was rich. His dad was a doctor, and he grew up a wealthy kid. But I mean, his dad can't change the planet the way he can.
Yeah.
And maybe his dad changed the planet by having Bill. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know what's going on for everybody else. I just got to figure out, I got to look at other people. I like the way Bill leads his life. I like what Bill and Melinda do, right? I like, I like the transformation that guy's had in his life. I like Warren Buffett. I like the way he makes his moves. And so
is that
so that's what I study people that have had success for long periods of time. It's really easy with Instagram and Facebook today to be a little bit delusional about oh wow, he's got a Lambo and this guy's got a jet,
Right.
Sometimes I worry that the jet actually puts people off. And they're like, I can't trust that guy because he's got stuff. My wife wouldn't go out with me because I was wealthy.
Interesting.
And she didn't want other people to think, she was she's a gold digger. And she also didn't want people. She thought, okay, he gets whatever he wants. I'm not going to be one of those women. So, all that glitters is not good for the perception of the audience either.
Right. But when the success leads to significance, right? When you can take the success and keep your foot on the gas, not to build another statue to yourself, right? But to help somebody rise up, to contribute back to your original theme, right? Of like, I'm here growing, not because I need more, but because I need to contribute more. And the second that you stop with the foot down, then there's how many millions of people that aren't going to be impacted because you decided to limit your reach.
Yeah.
That's a powerful way to live.
It doesn't have, it's still learning about yourself, still, getting educated, not just telling people they should invest in themselves, but continuing to invest in myself, my whole family. Like, we just want to be better, man. I want, and I can't be better if I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So you got to know what you don't know. And the only way to do that many times to get a coach or a mentor, to get somebody to help you and sit down and say, okay, what's going on here? What's going on there? Like spend a second getting another person's look at and even programming. How can I get programmed to undo some of this stuff that I've been doing for years? Like, once you get into a rut of doing something, like you need some help unwinding that. And for me, many times that takes another set of eyes.
You think, actually had a guest on recently that talked about these ruts that we create in our brains through habits. We oftentimes think of it like people that are addicted to drugs, people that are addicted to alcohol. That's that problem magnified, but all of us are very similar, that our brains are wired, I think, as an effort to expend the least amount of energy to just do things habitually. And sometimes those habitual activities are actually not beneficial to us. And they actually cause us to end up somewhere we don't want to end up.
Yeah, they worked at one time, right?
Yeah.
Like, there can be things that are good for you that were good for you at one point in time, but at some point you got to elevate the game. And the moment you do, you need a new coach, a new mentor. You need somebody else to look at, hey, what is it I'm missing out on? For me to make a couple $1 million is one thing. I mean, if you just think about stacking money.
Sure.
It could be bricks, it could be money, it could be houses, apartments, it could be closings, could be whatever, manufacturing. You can do a couple million sets, but when you start thinking, okay, now I'm going to go to 2 billion. I got this shirt, Billionaire in the Making, right? It's not really about money. It could be, but when you start thinking about creating, like, adding zeros, oh man, everything changes. what you know, your limitations, your resources, how you lead people. Oh, you can't manage everybody anymore. Like the whole game changes.
Yeah, I've heard people that have achieved massive amounts of success. Maybe you can validate it for us. Is it gets a point where you've again got enough, like you can't spend the money as fast as it's coming in, right? With the with what you've got going on, like how much can you really spend on lifestyle? But the man that you're becoming, right? That to become a billionaire, like what you're saying, the billions don't matter. But who do I have to become? How many people do I need to be leading? How many people do I need to be contributing to in order for me to be a billionaire? That's what people miss, right? And I think where people get off track, thinking like a billionaire, you greedy SOB, right? But
it doesn't have to be about $1 billion either. Like just drop the money thing and start thinking about scale and orders of magnitude. What would it take for somebody to have your name known with 1 billion people, 1/7 of the planet? Like, okay, forget the money. Like, drop money, gold watches, cars, jets, drop all that. You don't need any of that. You'll actually need all of that to actually get to 1 billion people. But Mother Teresa didn't need all that. But somebody funded that project.
Getting her name out.
And so, if you have a product, let's say you have a dress or I don't know, new stretch pant or whatever, right? A hat that's going to transform the world. You need a lot of people using that product. I don't know how many cups of Starbucks are sold every day. I imagine it's in the hundreds of millions. And but that kind of impact, you're talking about global impact. You're talking about literally permeating society with either a really, really good idea or a really, really bad one that's not good for people.
Yeah, so to take one that causes people to think bigger. And I think, for me, the quest of a lifetime is helping people to see the potential that's within them. I mean, that's in part what I want to thank you for. And what a pleasure it is to be able to do this in this format, to say, Grant, like look you in the eye and say, Grant, thank you. Like the words that you wrote in a book that probably weren't very fun to write at the time, right? I mean, writing a book's difficult. The things that you've said on social media over and over have started to permeate me to help me to see myself differently, to realize like, you know what? I can really have a big impact. And I think for me, it's to start to recognize that potential, which for me at a core is spiritual, right? That like, I'm literally offspring of divinity. Like that's a big deal.
That's right.
And an acorn becomes a tree. Like there's big, kind of big vision there. But even then taking it back to this business world in which we live, is that, no, you can have a big impact. And people start to realize like, it's not about the money, right? It's about how many people can I serve? How many people can I lead? People need leadership right now. And again, I want to thank you for being somebody who was willing to sacrifice. I'm sure your families felt massive amounts of sacrifice, of times when you weren't there, when you would rather have been there, that you were off speaking at an event, or you were working on a book, or you were working on a new product. And because you were willing to do that, right? So many of us are better people. We see ourselves differently. We now show up in the world differently. We now have the ability, this ripple effect, to be able to impact the world in a different way. So I want to thank you for that. Like genuinely, thank you.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. There's a lot of people saying 10X right now.
Yeah.
Like we just finished. I think we went to 17 countries. 10X. People all over the world know about 10X. So we landed in Malta. I didn't even know about Malta. Malta's a little island south of Sicily. We landed at 12:30 at night with no plans. It was we were in London, getting ready to come home to Miami, go back to Miami, and we diverted the flight to a place called Malta. I literally took out a map and said, boom, wherever I land my finger, we're gonna go. And the nearest place, I was my finger landed in the middle of the ocean. And I'm like, okay, we can't land there because you can only do that once. So what's the next nearest thing? And like an inch away was a place called Malta.
An inch.
We landed there 12:30 at night. I put one thing up on Instagram. Hey, we're going to go to Malta. There was 5 people showed up at the airport at 12:30 a.m.
That's amazing. In Malta.
Yeah. So, people need mentorship and people need guidance. People need coaches. I'm getting ready to launch a coaching program in 2 Saturdays, not this one, but the following. And I think the website's grantcardone.com/mentor. You can register for free. And I'm going to talk about when you get a mentor or coach, what do you need to ask that person? How do you take advantage of them? How can you, the things you don't want to do when you're with them? Because that's really, me and Damon John were talking about that last week. He's like, most people want help from me. They don't even know what to ask me. And that's what got me thinking about doing this. Because look, it's like going to the range at the golf course. You still got to know what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, you're just going to groove in bad habits.
Right.
And so I'm going to be sharing what I learned from what do I ask? What do I want to know? How do I tap in? How do I not waste their time? How do I maximize? And how do I show that coach, that mentor, that I'm being successful? Because here's a little trick. If you get around somebody that's actually willing to share their time with you, not just their money. If you can get, because they're not going to give you money. It's just not going to happen. If what they want is they want to see their influence on you made a difference. And this is what I didn't know. When a coach, a teacher, an educator, when they see a kid or whatever age person respond to the therapy, as opposed to 3 people that didn't do it, dude, they're so interested in this guy because this guy becomes a product of their coaching. And that is the ultimate way to get more attention from a coach or a mentor, is to show them, hey, you did just what you're saying right now. Like you inspired me so much to do more of what I do, because you said, hey, Grant, you have a ripple effect going on. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, I want to give more attention to the people that, it's like a quarterback. Tom Brady, I thought TB stood for Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is going to go to the guy he trusts to catch that ball.
Yeah.
And a good coach does not mind helping somebody that is going to say, hey, I'm going to show you that I'm going to make this successful.
Yeah. The greatest payment that any coach could receive is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Is do something with it, right? Like, yeah, pay your bill, sure, but do something with it, right?
Yeah.
Go be somebody. Go impact.
Be an example of the lesson.
Yeah.
That's the product. The product is, for me, when I help people, I mean, okay, yeah, I got some money out of it, big deal. Like what I want, my ultimate payday is that somebody would say something that I somehow contributed. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Dude, contribution is the holy grail of all payment programs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen at Amazon. It doesn't happen in a job. I make a contribution. It made a difference. It's a good contribution, not a bad negative contribution. And the world's better for it. Maybe if one person benefited, that's good enough. But man, if one person could benefit, then you feel an obligation to say, hey, how can I help millions of people?
Yeah. Which is really what you've done with all of us, right? Is help us to see, like, hey, your impact doesn't have to be in that small little quadrant in which you live, right? I mean, it's really the inspiration for the Think Bigger real estate show, right? Is it like, I feel like there's a lot of really bright people in the world. And if at minimum, if I just get them to pour into me every day, I'm going to show up at home. I'm going to show up at work. I'm going to show up with my customers a lot better, right? But then you also start to realize, what if I were to broadcast these conversations and hopefully impact even more people, right? Which, why not, right? Let's go live every day. Let's share what I'm learning with other people. But so thank you for that, for making this possible.
You're welcome.
It's good stuff, man. Hey, so anybody that's listening here, grantcardone.com/mentor. I want you to pay close attention to what Grant's saying here. Again, he's reached massive levels of success. He's got his foot on the pedal because now it's about contribution, right? That's what he's about. And it's really fun to hear about the people that you're studying from, right? Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, these people that have continued to have great success, yet at the same time have massive lives of contribution. And you've been doing that all along, but it's fun to hear kind of that's the big picture for you as well.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to go spend time with Tim Draper tomorrow. I don't know if you know who Tim is, but he's a billionaire. And I'm going to spend 3 hours with him and see, what can we do with each other. I mean, the beautiful thing about once you get a little bit of success and particularly recognition. It's not just financial success. It's like, okay, what's the dude? What's he doing? Friday, I'm interviewing Sylvester Stallone in front of 8,000 people.
So cool.
So before Stallone accepts that, he goes in. Somebody in this group's going to be like, well, who is the dude?
Yeah,
because they don't want it to go bad on Rocky, man. You know, so you know, he gets some intel and some research on me. Man, I like this dude. So it's not just what you've done. It's, hey, do I feel good when I'm with this guy? I mean, same thing with Tim Draper's one. I mean, success does allow you to start getting access. And so it's not just about the money and the cars and your family and the vacation and all that's great and all that's really important. But, you know, it's what else can you do? What else can you learn? So, yeah, man, I really appreciate what you're doing at your you know, doing this. Do you go live every night?
I do. Actually go 8:30 in the morning, but just happened to catch you at this time. So, yeah.
Well, well done on what you're doing and the contribution you're making. And thank you for holding me accountable to come on and spend some time with you. When do you guys all get back together again?
You know, I don't think there's anything on the on the schedule right now, but you better believe I'll be having conversations with people let's make that happen.
Good. Well, I love the company. I love the group. I love just the people that were there were phenomenal. Yeah. And brother, keep on keeping on, man.
Hey, I'm going to ask one last favor. The signature question of the show you've already answered, which is, what does a guy like you do to continue to think bigger? The whole episode's been about that, right? You're surrounding yourself with great people. Is there anything else that you would add to that? Things that you do to continue to expand your own possibilities? I feel like you've answered that, but if there's any last words that you have for that, I'd love to have you answer.
So look, you know, the people around you are going to, you know, everybody wants to do better.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody, I've never met anybody that didn't want to do better. Now, when they go home and they get around the other people around them, then something changes. The people that you're surrounded by, even loved ones, people are confused today. People are your wife, your husband, the kids, your mom, your dad, uncles and aunts. There's a lot of people suffering out there with the wrong information.
Yeah.
If you have the right information, you'd be doing well. So I am extremely selective about where I get my information today. I want to know if look, I'll be in the room with a crook. I just need to know he is. Like, I'm not gonna count anybody out. I'll always give somebody a second chance, but you need to keep both eyes open and know, you know, when your uncle's giving you advice about debt, don't go into debt. Don't go into debt. Don't borrow money. Really? Why? Why are you telling me that, man? Oh, well, and then the story comes out. I borrowed money on a business and on my house and for a boat, and I busted out. And all debt is bad debt now. Okay, well, good. So now you know that guy that's giving you the information, by the way, he could end up with a TV show. Could be your uncle. He could end up with a TV show and educate millions and millions of people not to borrow money. You got people on TV right now giving advice on marriages that have never been married, man. People that are giving advice on weight loss that have been overweight their whole life. Like, not part of their life, their entire life. People, you got psychologists that have written books that committed suicide. And some of this stuff is in the colleges. Like, we're reading this as the truth. And the reality is, it did not produce great products. So when I hear a guy talking to me about sales that I know stole hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't even want to have the conversation. I'm like, dude, that ain't sales. Like, let's get off this topic. That is trickery. Yeah. That's conning people. That's not my game. So if my deal is, so you know what I'm saying? Like you got to know where the data's coming from and do enough research on people to find out, okay, who is this? Why is this person telling me this? Like, not buying a house. I tell people, do not buy a house. You could sell a house, but there's no reason for you to own one. and some people want to buy a house. Okay, they want to own a home. They want to settle down. Good. Let those people buy homes. Buy real estate that pays you. Sell real estate that pays you, and take the money and buy real estate where people rent, because it's just a better deal than one single family house. Yeah. And so why do I, people should say, why is he telling me that? Right? Well, because I made a lot of money doing that, and I know it's good for people. That's the only reason I'm telling people that.
It's a good distinction that you made.
Huh?
I said it's a good distinction you've made, is that, you should buy real estate, but just be sure that real estate pays you.
Yeah. Everybody should own real estate. Real estate should be their biggest asset, but it's an asset when it pays you. The deal is to have cash flow. So that's why, and the reason I'm saying all that is to say, find out why someone's so passionate about what they're talking about, because their passion can be perverted. It could be a stuck, weird, weird deal, right? Trying to solve this old problem that never got this guy undone. And so that's why it's really, really important for people to study who they're studying.
I love it. Grant, this has been amazing, my friend. I really appreciate you doing this. It's meant a lot to me and to my audience. This won't be the last time. And I'm looking forward to bringing big value to you in return for years to come, because you've done that for me. So, my final request.
Dude, you're the man. If your audience wants to hook up on that mentoring program, it's grantcardone.com/mentor.
My final request of everybody listening, which Grant has made this really easy for all of us, are 3 simple words. You hear me say it every time. Go think bigger. Thank you, Grant. It's been a total pleasure,
brother.
my friend.
Be great, man. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.